Gas is almost $4 a gallon. It sucks.
What did you expect when you banned drilling?
But Obama said we need to invest in renewable energy. He is so cool.
Okay, but why not drill in the meantime?
Haven't you heard? Oil companies are bad and will destroy the environment. Take ANWR. It's a national treasure and needs to be protected.
The area considered for drilling is completely flat and barren and covered in snow 9 months of the year, and will take up less than 1% of the total area of ANWR.
But the caribou are more important than people.
The caribou population in Prudhoe Bay, where we have been getting oil since the mid-70s, has increased from 3,000 to 30,000 since drilling began.
But there isn't enough oil in ANWR to go to all this trouble.
The U.S. currently consumes about 20 million barrels per day. ANWR could pump 1 million barrels a day for 36 years.
But it will take 10 years to get the first drop of oil and not help in the short term, therefore we should do nothing.
For the last 30 years we've heard the same argument about how long it will take. How many more 10-year cycles have to pass before somebody thinks ahead? World demand for oil is expected to be about 25% higher 10 years from now.
But oil companies already have leases on 68 million acres. Use it or lose it.
If the 68 million acres were a sure thing, why would oil companies not want to cash in now when the price is at an obscene level? If we drill in ANWR and offshore and find a lot of oil, then what would liberals say? Oops.
But offshore drilling is too big a risk to the environment. Remember BP in the Gulf?
Government regulators weren't doing their job. When properly maintained, the technology in today's offshore rigs essentially eliminate risk from hazardous weather conditions. Before BP, oil spills have been reduced by over 90% since the 1970s. Oil reserves in the outer continental shelf are estimated to be 7 times more than ANWR.
But Obama said to focus on jobs.
ANWR would create approximately 400,000 jobs and would generate taxes for the government over the life of the project of about $200 billion. The U.S. currently pays foreign governments about $700 billion per year for oil. ANWR alone would reduce that by about $50 billion. Offshore drilling could knock another $350 billion off, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of jobs created here instead of overseas.
But Obama said that green jobs are the way to win the future for America.
Is that why Obama just gave loan guarantees for $2 billion to Brazil to develop their own offshore drilling?
Yes.
So that they get the jobs, not us, and then we buy the oil from Brazil.
Yes. But Obama also said we should conserve.
The pressure on demand from China and India alone for the next few decades will far exceed any cutbacks the U.S. makes, thereby keeping the world price for oil rising. The obvious solution is to increase supply.
Well then, Obama said we should tap into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
The SPR was created in the 70s to counter any future severe supply interruptions. The SPR holds approximately 700 million barrels. That's only about a 35-day supply.
Well then, some Democrats in Congress want to sue OPEC to force them to pump more oil. Let's lawyer up.
So we want more oil, just as long as it does not come from American sources. If we need more oil, then allow drilling here. If drilling is too big a risk to the environment, then don't demand more oil from OPEC. If the world is going to consume a certain amount of oil regardless of where it comes from, wouldn't drilling in the U.S. be done in a more environmentally friendly way?
Does not compute. Besides, Obama said that the amount of oil we'd get from new offshore drilling can be made up if we all just properly inflated our tires and got regular tune-ups.
In a moment of candor, Harry Reid said, "Coal makes us sick, oil makes us sick, it's global warming, it's ruining our country. It's ruining our world. We've got to stop using fossil fuels."
Whatever. Besides, Obama said we should be developing wind and solar. He is so cool.
Conservatives are all for that, as long as it's in conjunction with developing everything else simultaneously, that is, all of the above. Wind and solar are only intermittent sources of energy and need to be subsidized in order to be competitive.
Well, you can just forget about coal. It's too dirty.
Clean coal technology is estimated to be a viable, clean energy source in 10 to 15 years, that is capturing most of the CO2 emissions. They already capture most of the sulfur dioxide and other toxins. Coal currently is used to produce about half of the electricity in the U.S., and we have enough coal reserves to last about 230 years at today's usage level.
No nukes. Nuclear energy is bad. Obama is against nuclear energy, although he claims it's still on the table. He said that we haven't figured out the storage problem.
Yucca Mountain has been studied for 30 years, with approximately $10 billion spent on development of its nuclear waste storage facility. Yucca has met acceptable safety requirements for the first 10,000 years and was selected as the best possible place in America to store nuclear waste.
But what about after 10,000 years?
Seriously? Nuclear waste is currently stored in over 120 temporary locations throughout the country in 39 states. How is that safer than storing it in a single, far more secure location like Yucca Mountain? Most European nations reprocess their nuclear waste, turning it into more nuclear fuel and reducing their total nuclear waste by about 95%. Why is it okay in Europe and not here?
But Obama said it's too dangerous to protect against terrorists. And besides, look what happened in Japan.
Since 9/11, nuclear power plants in the U.S. have been fortified along with redundant safety systems and have a gauntlet of defensive measures in place, including defenses against aircraft attacks.
But Obama said it costs too much.
Although nuclear energy initially does have high capital costs, it is cheaper to produce energy than any other fossil fuel once it is up and running, with no carbon emissions. There is estimated to be about a 100-year supply of uranium on Earth for fuel based on today's consumption levels.
But I read on internet blogs that millions of people have died from nuclear meltdowns.
In 1979, America experienced its worst nuclear disaster during the meltdown at 3 Mile Island. Do you know how many people died?
Probably a lot. Nuclear meltdowns mean millions of people die.
No one died. Not one person.
But the site is probably contaminated and uninhabitable for hundreds of thousands of years.
3 Mile Island was repaired and has continued to provide electricity for about 800,000 homes per year ever since.
That sounds like right-wing propaganda. I'm tired of all this thinking. I need a latte.